while I got both you guys here, and even Rob, while I got you here, we can literally see somebody train themselves out of a good movement screen, right? We can see somebody be sedentary and get themselves out of a good movement screen, but we can just as equally, in our sort of obsessive compulsive society, more's better, see somebody train themselves out of good movement. We can see it with not just physical stress, okay? We can see it with psychological stress, with competition and stuff like that, but talk a few minutes about how a inappropriate workout mindset, inappropriate lifting mindset, inappropriate running mindset, high-end specialization, how each one of these things can actually have a metric on it now that says, wait a second, your specialization, your obsessive workout or whatever just took you into risk. You know, we were up here. That's the only thing that changed. So every one of you has seen stress, recovering from injury. We've seen the injuries happen. You guys have, you know, done a season. So, you know, what have we got going on with stress?
I've seen a couple different things as far as can almost train yourself out of good movement. And one of them, we'll talk about an exercise that's very common, is the squat. And whether it's at the high school level, the college level, and some cases at our level too, the squat always has this tag to it of, to be a good athlete, you have to squat big weight. And sometimes, whether it's the adolescent who is going through puberty and there are major changes in their biomechanics, stress on their core, and being forced into this squat mentality of more is better, in order to please the coach, because I think all of us still to this day have that element in us that we want to please our superior in some way. It goes back to childhood again, you know. And if you got the teenager or the college athlete that is trying to reach that goal to be the 300, 400, 500 pound squatter, but I know in my mind I can't squat 400 pounds unless I can cheat or compensate. So maybe I have to spread my feet wider. Maybe I have to put the bar in a position where I can maybe biomechanically lean forward a little bit further. Maybe I have to turn my toes out further. I've got to do something to please my coach. And when that pattern gets reinforced over and over and over, you can lose good movement because you have just basically reloaded your software in your brain with compensation. So I've seen it from that standpoint, where we may have an athlete leave us for 4 or 5 weeks on some off time, go do some movements where the priority gets a little bit away from quality and gets more into quantity or bigger weights. And I've also seen it change with being too sport specific, or having what your sport is in terms of practice ask you to do movements over a period of time that make you asymmetric. An example at our level is a quarterback. And I try to educate our quarterbacks in the fact that take quarterbacking out of it. You're a rotational athlete. But you rotate the same way for 2.5 or 3 hours in practice, and you throw 300 balls. Well, that's one-way rotation. That's an asymmetric rotational pattern. And if you do that over a period of time, now there's other stresses on the body. A lot of quarterbacks will come in, man, my SI joint's killing me. I don't know why. So for us, we'll take those positions. Maybe it's a left tackle that is in a stance that is asymmetric, and he lives there for 3 hours a day. And we have to come in and try to reset the body so that we balance things out. Our job, I think, is to create great movement, great performance, but be able to have balance, left side, right side, inside, outside, upper segment, lower segment. And then whatever sports skill you want to lay on top of that, go for it. Because you're prepared. You can take on anything. You want to throw footballs, you want to hit golf balls, you want to play basketball, you can do it all. You're capable. But if you're just a one-sided athlete and now you have to do something else, or that repetition finally just gobbles you up, now you've decreased the quality of movement. And those are the kind of two areas that I see that are most common in our world.
Before you guys start, just to hit that, to articulate that to an athlete, we used to train people out of Pavel's Naked Warrior book. It's got nothing to do with training naked. He basically said body weight. Can you do a pistol or a single leg squat on this side? If so, can you do it on this side? How about upper body? Can you do a one-arm push-up? If so, can you do it on the other side? So we would train some of our young athletes and actually get them doing that stuff. And I said, anything else you do, just don't lose any one of these 4 movements. If you can do those 4 things, your movement screen is going to be impressive. So that was Pavel's way of saying the body weight training and the ability to do that pistol and that one-arm push-up exposes you to your rotational asymmetries, your AP tightness, anterior posterior chain. So, you know, when I talk about the intuition that I see in these great coaches, hell of a book to pick up. Just those little drills of how to get to a pistol, how to get to a one-arm push-up, mirror many of our corrective exercise drills. So if I had to get your screen 2s on everything, no asymmetries, and turn you loose on Pavel's Naked Warrior training, I think you would continue to improve and get stronger in the mix, and you don't have to worry about where the bar is. Because if you can do a body weight pistol on either side, and just for giggles one day, we want to see what you can do in the squat rack, I won't be disappointed. Okay, you may not become a power lifter overnight, but you will have athleticism coming out of every pore. So I didn't mean to, I just wanted to inject that, because when the athlete can't get their head around this whole thing, I try to get them to the point of each of those movements and say, if you lose these, you have lost what we worked on. If you don't lose these, but have added strength, speed, stability, whatever, that's icing. That's great. But you didn't lose these. So.
And once they do the right correctives, it's hard. It's hard work. We've all been through the first time. It is hard work, but you're not thinking that I'm on the treadmill, I'm doing a certain, you know, I'm just dumbbell press. You are working so hard, you're sweating, and all you're trying to do is one simple exercise. It takes time, and I don't want people thinking that you're getting rid of tendinopathies after 6 to 8 weeks when we retest. But it's amazing when guys get to, patients get to a certain point after a few months, because they have to do something at home, our private practice. Our guys do it almost every day. In time, those chronic tendinopathy issues just slowly, and that's when the player understands, wow, I really worked hard at first, now my knee feels better. And that's when they put it together, and when you explain it well to them, they really buy in, and they want to do more. After that, you know you have them. Low back pain decreases, and that's your outcome. But you can't, to me, when you talk about stress, you can't stress over the fact that after 6 to 8 weeks, that's our mentality. Oh man, he's got to get back. I'm going to retest. Yeah, it will happen.
Yeah, I often compare it to, you know, so my wife's a psychologist and I'm a biomechanist, and a long time ago I would have just held my kid up and had him walk around because that's how they're going to learn how to walk. But as I learned the model, then I had 2 daughters, and they learn how to walk when they're ready. When gravity allows them to walk, when they're ready for the movement. And that's what I tell my patients and my clients. You'll get there when you get there. We're on the right path. These have worked before. We're just working with your nerves and your muscles and your bones. It's nothing that we haven't had for years and years and years and years. I think what I find as far as the stress related to the movement patterns and how it changes it, I always find it very interesting when working someone through a corrective exercise that if I go too far, I'll work them back down to where they were. And that's just because the system's overloaded, because they've had enough. And if I start doing 10 more reps on top of that, as opposed to going to something different, I'm just going to ingrate that bad pattern. So, and that stress, you know, that's local stress. You got long-term stress, sitting at a desk, flex forward posture, whatever the case may be. But it also, when I have those discussions about scores like you were talking about, Jeff, if someone says they're a 12, you don't get it, we need to talk some more, right? They're a 12, they have 2 asymmetries, this is where their 1's on, because in the end, if they're below the cut point, we got to work on them. If they have an asymmetry, we got to work on them. We saw some from our data from the NFL. If you have a 1 on the deep squat, you just don't get those, you don't get above that cut point. Well, you need more work to work on that. So there's so much more information that comes in, just like you were talking about. You know, I think, you know, it's great. We saw someone in the lab who was at 18. Well, they're a 3-1 lunge, they're a 1 on the deep squat. I got some work to do, and they're a runner. Yeah. Right? So
that's why you don't put it all on the score.
That's right. That's right. It can't be about that number. The number's good. The number's good. But I've got to know how many different ways can you feel your cholesterol? That's how we kind of think of it, right? LDL, HDL total, right? There's a number there, and part of it's pharmaceutical driven, so they can keep pushing that stuff at you. But that's all right. But let's make sure that that's good enough. And so we've borrowed a lot from the cardiovascular literature, but you can fail a movement screen a similar number of ways. What's the component that makes you fail? I don't care what your total cholesterol is if your LDLs are through or your HDLs are through the roof. It's just a matter of failing, and that's it. And I know that that's where I've got to work.
Let me